All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Channel 6 Community Focus. Kenny Fogel here. Glad you could join us this evening. We have a little education segment here. Hopefully that's what we'll talk about anyway, as we have the superintendent of us with the Bardstown School District, Mr. Brent Holsclaw. First of all, Brent, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Well, I know you've wrapped up another, I don't want to say a grueling year, but you had another year at the school system here in Bardstown.
That's true. We have finished up 10 years now as superintendent of Bardstown City Schools.
You've been there that long?
I have.
I didn't think you were that old.
Oh, thank you very much, sir. And I've certainly enjoyed it. It's a fun job to get up and come to every day, and of course it has its challenges, but I think that's what makes it interesting and fun. So.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about. You know, obviously there are challenges to what you do every day because you deal with probably one of the largest employers in Nelson County, and not only our employees, but you got a whole busload of kids. I mean, bus loads of kids that you have to deal with every day, and I'm sure every single one presents a different challenge.
It does, and I think that's what makes us unique is that we look at these challenges, these families, these children, every one of them are different, and so we have to be ready to build that relationship with them and with that family and to meet their needs based on what their needs are.
Well, let's before we get into the school system a little bit, tell us a little bit about, I want to know, what got you into teaching in the first place?
Well, I'm a Berea College graduate, and I was working on a business management degree, and in order to complete my liberal arts a piece of the puzzle there at Berea, I needed to get some hours in outside of my major, and I got into education. I just fell in love with it, and it was certainly something that I knew I wanted to do, and really enjoy it.
Now, you've been in several schools, I know, on your way to the superintendent's job. Now, I know you're at Old Kentucky Home because I worked with you there for a while and doing some things, but you've been other places too.
I have. I started in Hardin County as a business education teacher at North Hardin High School back in the 80s.
That had to be some tough days.
It was a lot of fun. And then we came to Bardstown and spent the next 6 years here up till 1996, and then I went to LaRue County for a year as a principal. There I was a counselor at Bardstown High School, and then a principal at LaRue County Middle, and then had a great opportunity to come back to Old Kentucky Home Middle School, and came back there for 3 years, and then probably had the dream of a lifetime for anybody that wants to be an educator. I got a great opportunity to go and open a brand new high school in Elizabethtown called John Hardin High School. Just a beautiful facility and a wonderful staff there. We just really had a great thing going there. And then this job came open when Dr. Smotherman decided to retire after many years in education, and I thought I'd take a shot at it, and somehow it worked out well for me, and I'm certainly been enjoying it ever since.
Well, you've seen it from the teacher side, the principal side, and the superintendent side. I'm not going to say which job is the hardest because I'm sure they're all very difficult. But what's the biggest challenge for a teacher to becoming a superintendent?
Well, I don't know if I can identify that challenge itself, but I will echo what you've said. I think serving in all of the capacities that are possible in the school system, on the certified teaching side, being teacher, counselor, principal, and so forth.
You understand when a teacher comes to you, you pretty much understand what they're talking about.
I have a pretty good understanding, yes. Yeah. It's not like I skipped a bunch of steps to get here, and I think that's been one of the things that has really helped me. Probably the counseling position has helped me as much as anything in that counseling component. Really, that's what we do every day in dealing with situations and folks has a lot to do with that.
Well, one of the biggest difference, obviously, in being a front line and a superintendent, I mean, obviously, years ago, you worked one-on-one with students, and now it's more of a panoramic version of it. And you've got, how many schools do you have right now in the Bardstown school system?
We have 5 schools, beginning with our early childhood. And then what we call our primary school, which would be K through 2, and then 3 through 5 would be our elementary, and then 6 through 8 would be the middle school, and then high school, of course, 9 through 12.
Now, I know we always concentrate on the negative, where your biggest headaches are, whether it's high school kids or whether it's elementary kids, but there's a lot of good things that you're doing too. I mean, obviously you wouldn't be in this if it was just all headaches.
Well, even the headaches turn into positive things. I mean, somehow those things have to be dealt with, and it is quite satisfying. I can tell you, Kenny, one of the most rewarding things that I can probably tell you several things, but one that comes to mind is I have a really good friend that was in a hospital in Bowling Green last summer. Went down to make a visit, and as I was walking in the door, somebody behind the desk said, "Mr. Holdsclaw," and I turned around and I just had it was a former student at one of the schools that I'd been at, and we just had such a blessing. And she told me about things that, frankly, I'd kind of forgotten about, but she didn't forget about them. She remembered them, and they were really special to her.
Well, that's a success story. That's a success story, and that's what I guess you strive for more so than anything. Obviously, everybody's not going to be a big raving success. I mean, everybody's not going to get their PhD and go on to Harvard. But your success story is to graduate a student that's capable of functioning on the outside.
Well, that's true. That's what our goal is today. We're laser focused on college and career readiness. So we need to get people ready for the job market. Our community, our economic development is based heavily upon us being able to provide a workforce.
So again, I know we talk about all the things that goes on with the superintendent every day. You've got budgets. I know that's probably the biggest issue that most administrators have to worry about, because you got to pay for all this. I mean, it's not free.
It's a real challenge, and it's talk about the difficult part of the job, dealing with the children, the parents, the staff. That's the love of the job. The difficult part is the finance part, and it would be awesome if there were plenty of money to go around, but unfortunately, that's what we have to spend a lot of time on, and it's very costly. In our business, the majority of our expenses are salaries, and I mean that is an industry across the nation. It takes a lot of money because we have people power there. Our programs are usually not reoccurring, but salaries are reoccurring. The economic situation that we're in right now with a lack of funding makes it very difficult. The concept of the tax system that we have in Kentucky puts it back on the local community, and having to set that tax base, that rate every year, is a very difficult thing for our Board of Education.
And it doesn't make you popular sometimes. Obviously, the people get upset because nobody likes to pay taxes. But I talked to a lady in Western Kentucky yesterday, and the school is actually going out of business. They're closing the school down. I think there's two they're closing down in Western Kentucky, and they say primarily because of personnel costs went from 80 to 90%, primarily because of insurance hikes and insurance costs and things, and you're not getting a whole lot more money from Frankfort.
That's true, and and I want to say that the folks in Frankfort, I think that they're doing probably what they can do under the circumstance that they're being faced with. So. So all in all, I think they're doing their part. We're trying to get our part done, and hopefully we'll get this thing recovered and get back on our feet.
Been here 10 years now. So what big changes have you seen in the 10 years you've been here that you're really excited about? Well,
the really good thing is about the other places I'd been. There were a lot of things that we needed to deal with. We had to. One of the great things about the Bardstown City Schools, it has just a great tradition and have so many things that we're excellent at that. Was able to come in and my goal has been to try to keep things going and try to keep a high level of success there. But things like our college and career readiness, we were able to increase that almost 29 percentage points this year, and we're expecting to have another banter year this spring when we do our assessment. So those kind of things are what we're focusing on. We've continued to work on. We have great special education programs. We have a great curriculum. One of the things that we're beginning to focus now is our gifted and talented. We've always had those programs, but we sort of as a society still kind of get it. But we're being more focused on that, and with some STEM programs in grades K through 8. We do have our advanced placement for our high school students, and by the way, they were all testing this week and next week, and that's going very well, and we expect some very high scores there. It's always great. Also, the U.S. News and World Report comes out about this time of year, and we're anxiously waiting to see. But the last 3 years, two of those last three, we've been at a silver level, and then 3 years ago we were at a bronze, and we're just really proud of that because we really think that says what we're all about. And it's not just 9 through 12; it says what we're all about all the way from early childhood. That's where it starts. And so being able to make that, and what's so important about that is that they measure how well you educate the students in your school system. If you have all advanced placement type students, we don't. But if you did, and you get credit for scoring really high.
Yeah.
Well, if you have a vast majority of a population with a different,
Right.
a lot of different demographics, and you do well, it really says a lot.
It really does.
We're really proud of that. So.
That's what I've always said about a public school system as opposed to a private school system. You take what comes through the door, because you really don't have the choice on that. And sometimes it's a great student, and sometimes the student really doesn't want to be there. But you still got to treat that student at the same level that you do any other. Now again, if we wanted to solve the problems of the school system here tonight, and we didn't. It had unlimited money. I mean, we're just going to unlimited money. What would be the biggest thing you'd look for? Is more teachers, more technology? I mean, obviously they always say the teacher to student ratio is very important. Is that something that when you're dealing with as many children you have and so many?
Well, you ask a classroom teacher that question, they'll say absolutely, that's the answer to it. And and there probably is a lot of truth to that. If you have spent time in a classroom, you know that with smaller groups you can accomplish more, and you can make sure that no child literally gets left behind when that happens. But that's a great question. I mean, what would be the answer?
I would be overwhelmed. I'll be honest with you. I'll be honest.
So many things that you could do if money were no object.
Yeah.
But I don't know, Kenny, that I probably would like to say that. I don't think money is the only answer.
Yeah.
I mean, anything that we can do, and I'll try to say two things here. Anything that we can do as a staff to increase our relationship with that family. There's an old saying about kids and parents, they really don't care how much you know.
Yeah.
They really care about how much you care. And when we're able to present that side, and they know that we're sincere and our hearts are right, man, we can get a lot accomplished. And then secondly would be parental involvement in the sense of supporting what we're doing at school, and where we become a team in educating our students. And there's a lot of our society has put a lot on schools recently.
Well, kids have changed so much. I mean, obviously, social media has become such a big thing. I mean, you've learned how to type with your thumbs now. They didn't have a class for that, and I guess they still don't.
No.
But kids have learned how to pick up on that really fast. And again, they're getting their information and are interacting so much differently than they did when we were going to school.
Yeah, it is a very unique situation, what you say about the social media and the texting and all that. In our generation, it goes without saying, we didn't have.
I don't remember taking the phone to school. If I did, I'd have a long cord.
Yeah, but the majority of the parents of our students, they didn't go through it either.
Yeah.
This has literally exploded in the last 6 to 8 years, and so we are a generation now of parents that really we didn't receive any training on this.
Yeah.
And so we're sort of catching up now. We're trying to show responsible behavior with social media, how to use it, what to say, and what not to do.
Well, like I said, I talked to a teacher yesterday down in West Kentucky. She called them the Y generation, and she said it's hard to understand because they're so into technology that what interests us and what we focus on, they don't even take any interest in at all. So you've got to learn to relate almost all over again. So I guess younger teachers maybe might have the advantage of us on some of the older
Absolutely,
teachers.
yeah, and that's very clear. I mean, they're texting information to their students on assignments. There's an open line of communication. It's just a lot different than it was in our day.
Well, something you mentioned just a second ago, that years ago when we were kids, I mean, and obviously smaller schools, smaller class sizes, but the parents were really involved when I was growing up. And I think we got away from that for a while. I mean, there for years, I think parents got so busy doing so many other things that they would basically bring a child to school, say, here's my kid, take care of them for 6 to 8 hours, send them home when you're done. But I think like you said, you're reaching out to parents and families a little more.
I think so. Society has changed. It's not 100% true, but in our day, typically there were a parent was in the home and a parent was in the workplace, and almost every situation now, due to economics or whatever their reasons are, both parents are in the workplace, and that does change. I mean, when you come home in the evening and it's really hard. I mean, you've had a stressful day as a parent when both of you have done that. Not saying staying home is easy.
No.
That's usually harder or just as hard. So it's a tough world we live in, and the important thing is we just got to make a priority, though.
Well, actually, you probably face this more as a counselor maybe than you do as a superintendent. But what could you really see the difference in a child's progress in school when their parents were more involved than they were when they're just. I mean, obviously, you're going to run into problems. You're going to have kids that are problem kids. You're going to have kids, but I know I coached Little League years ago, and I always said Little League was great if the parents would stay away. But you need the parents involved because you can't raise those children by yourself.
Yeah, and I guess we should clear up too that I don't think parents today go out of their way not to be involved.
Mm-hmm.
I think they are involved to some degree. When we talk about it, we're comparing it to 35 years ago.
Right.
That's what you and I are looking at.
Get switched at home and get to switch to school, go back home, and get switched again.
But, we get pretty good support. You know, when you contact a parent. I mean, overall, it's a pretty good support. But what could we do to get more involved? And meaning, when we're not when we call, we get good support. But what happens when we don't call and they're are you checking homework? Is there a homework time? Is there a place set aside for?
Well, there's better communications now too. I mean, I know you can reach parents a little quicker through the websites, and I know your emails. You're probably constantly sending emails out to let everybody know how the students are doing.
It's interesting. When I first came on board, we were working on communicating from the schools to home, and that's what we called it, from school to home communication. What are we doing? And our focus was, as I look back over some notes, we were working on refrigerator magnets that you could slide.
I remember those.
You could slide our calendar inside of. And so we have, and that was our main line of getting information to you. And now, of course, our websites are the main.
Yeah, I used to conveniently lose those notes when I take them home from my friend, but now we can't do that. You've got direct communication.
You can access 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we work really hard to keep those web pages updated, and it has everything from news to what's coming up, upcoming events. You can even get pushes now. As you can go in and sign up, and they'll push to your either your email account on the next event that's supposed to happen that day. So.
I had a talk to a lady a few days ago. She talked about she gets constant emails from one of her teachers that lets them know how they did on tests and whether they were how good they were in school that day, and just different things like that. Now I'll put you on the spot before we leave here. Now you've been 10 years there now. Now what's the school system going to be like over your next 10 years?
Well, I hope as good as these 10, because I certainly have enjoyed it, and we do have a lot of plans to do some things, and we're hoping to be able to pull those things.
A lot of buildings in the future, or is that our population stabilizing?
The population is somewhat stable. We do still have a need to increase our facilities, and we have that plan in place, and we're working to make that happen.
Okay, well, Brent, like I said, we really depend on you and the school system to bring our next generation along, because the next generation is the one's going to take care of us, and hopefully you do a good job, because we appreciate that.
Well, that's an awesome responsibility that you're putting on me, and we accept it with open arms.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for being here today. Appreciate it. Brent Holtzclaw, Superintendent of Bardstown City Schools, here with us today. Appreciate you being here. Maybe we'll have him back on a few more times as next year comes into play. Take care, everybody.
Thank you so much.
All right.